today's episode, we have Connection Coach certified coach and friend Elijah Runyan here with us. Elijah is a health coach, fitness coach, nutrition, like the whole body experience. And he is going to share with us the impact on emotions and our bodies and our health, and where people get stuck and things that they can do to get unstuck. And so that is where we are going today. Welcome to the Connection Codes podcast. This is the podcast that takes us from being disconnected to connected in our relationships and in ourselves. I'm your host, Tera, and joining me is marriage and family therapist, clinical sexologist, Dr. Glenn Hill, and his incredible wife, Phyllis Hill. And together, they have founded the Connection Codes, which is the guide to human connection. And we're so glad you're here.
Yes. Hello, world.
Hello.
Hi, friends. So today's topic, I don't know, a lot has stirred in me. If you've been listening to our podcast for a while, you know that our daughter-in-law, Meg, was diagnosed with cancer. I think now it's probably been 3 months, and kind of a little update there at this moment. She has had her 4th chemo treatment and has really done well.
Joy.
It's amazing. She looks healthier than she has looked in a really long time. And there are so many things that she is doing besides just chemo. So what a story as far as all the things that she is adding to her daily life. And many of you have shared books with us, have shared information with us, and we are so thankful. We know people are praying for her all over the world, and it is making a huge difference. One of the books that has been so impactful for me through this journey is called Radical Remission, which, yes, it's a book about cancer, but oh my word, it is a book I can't stop talking about because I think we all need to understand what happens inside our bodies. And that is kind of today a joy for us to have Elijah in the house. And because just such an advocate for health and what a difference it makes. But what I love about you is that it's not just about the typical, what I call the typical, where it's like, oh, you want to lose weight? Here's how to do it.
Sure.
And that there's a much bigger picture to that.
Absolutely.
And I know that, Connection Codes is kind of added to what you've already been doing as
100.
far as understanding how much our emotion impacts our health.
Totally.
And that, to me, this book highlights that, which is so fascinating because the book that I'm reading is all about cancer, and yet it's all interwoven about emotion.
Yeah.
It's almost like if you believe that our bodies can heal themselves.
Absolutely.
And if you believe that and trust that, your body can heal itself from whatever. So I am just full of joy today. Having you here, being able to really dive into this a little deeper, this just whole topic of how emotions affect our health. So thank you for being with us today. It's really, really special. So
I do want to interject this one thing just because people say, oh, the so-and-so has cancer. We all have cancer. Every human on the planet. You have about 20 to 30 trillion cells in your body, which are continuously replicating. One of those is going to miss. That's called cancer. That's what cancer is. And so when cancer gets big enough, you have 1 out of 25 trillion, no big deal. When it gets big enough, the body is like, oh, I'll clean up on online, and goes and beats it up. Unless the immune system is compromised because of unprocessed emotion, the nervous system is dysregulated, because the system is supposed to just function normally, and we just got all these cleanups, just like we all have viruses in our blood. I got shingles in 2013. That's not true. I had shingles my whole life since I had chickenpox as a child. So, but it manifested in 2013 because my life was out of control. It was pre-connection codes for us. Didn't have a clue what to do with all this. My immune system broke down. And so then the virus manifested itself. But it's still in my system. It's still in my blood. I can't get rid of it unless I get rid of all my blood, which actually has its own detrimental effect on your health. So anyway, but that's just important to know. That's not that, oh, well, these individuals over here have a physical struggle. We all do. That's the essence of the human condition. And that's the reason we want to be in optimal shape to handle all of these physiological stressors that are in our life. Just wanted to interject that.
Yeah, so good. So I know before we jump in, we should do the wheel because otherwise, before you know it, we'll be done and we'll be doing the wheel at the end.
Yes.
And we're trying to do it at the beginning because it's such a powerful tool.
Yes. You're looking at me.
You want to do it with me?
Oh, sure. I will do it with
together.
you. Okay. So if this is your first episode, first time listening, the Core Emotion Wheel is the 4-minute tool that Dr. Glenn and Phyllis have created that helps you learn how to identify and process those emotions so you can get them out of your body. So your immune system, your nervous system, so everything can flow the way it was designed to. So you are working for the betterment of yourself.
Yep.
And we also use it. The best benefit is that you can use it to connect in your relationships. So we are going to start our podcast by doing this so you can see how it's done. And you can download your own Core Emotion Wheel through the show notes at connectioncodes.co/podcast.
Core level anger that our pool, our above ground pool, is completely falling apart.
Oh, sad.
Thank you. Sad with that as well. We just discovered it all this morning in a way. So sad. And a lot of anger because there's not people that will work on this pool. Everyone's like, oh no, we only do in-ground pools. Ooh, a lot of anger about that. Shame and guilt. I think I say this way too often for those who are listening all the time, is just that I am not in the shape I want to be in my life. And I'm really excited about today's topic because this is definitely such a big part of my desire and I want to maximize my health.
Absolutely.
Fear, we are traveling for a month. Fear in just all the logistics and already feeling a ton of joy though, because I've been writing lists, doing my things for days and days and days to get ready to leave tomorrow. So joy that we get to all be together today and a lot of joy about being with my favorite man for a month. Everybody keeps asking, is it just the two of you? I'm like, yeah, just the two of us are traveling all over the place for a month. We're doing fun and then we're doing a lot of Connection Codes things. So super excited about that. And let's see, my hurt, as I often share, I have been dealing with my leg pain. So that is a physical hurt. I would say an emotional hurt is probably just a few minutes before we got here today, our interaction about the pool. I just felt some hurt in how quickly you responded. And just that happens a lot with us. So felt some hurt and all of that.
Thank you. Okay. I feel, I don't know. I'll start with joy. I feel joy because I just got back from a week trip with my family. We went to Disney World and Universal and just so much joy. We just had the best time. If anybody needs tips on how to do Disney with a lot of kids that are young, email me because I have them for you. So much joy in just being with
need more
them.
emails, Tera. Good idea.
You're interrupting my wheel, Glenn.
Sorry.
He just broke the rule.
I know, you're only supposed to ooh.
I thought that was a new.
Anger, because Disney did change their system where in order to book your next things, you have to be on your phone to do it. And I really wanted a week without my kids seeing me on my phone.
Yeah. Wow.
And so just anger in that. I processed that with the kids, but just anger that they even saw the phone in my hand.
Yeah.
Shame because I have fallen off of the exercise wagon. I was doing so good. So good. And I have just not been crushing it recently. Guilt because I missed with Wes on the last day of our trip. I didn't slow down and find out what was happening with him, and then we disconnected. And so lots of guilt that I missed there. Fear because I just found out that y'all are leaving for a full month 3 minutes ago. I didn't realize that y'all were gone for the entire next month. And so fear in that, lonely in probably just preparing for the trip, packing everything, just all the tasks that have to be done when you have 4 young kids. So just lonely there. Sad because Wes and I went 536 days without disconnecting. And I know because I knew the date. It was the day after his birthday of when it happened. So it was easy to track.
Wow.
And we've disconnected twice in the last 2 weeks. So just so much sadness in there. Like, how do people live like this all the time? And I think hurt in that too. Hurt because we both have had that conversation of like, oh man, these 2 disconnects that we've had, we worked through them pretty quickly, but they were so painful. And hurt that other people, like, that's their story. Like, that is what they experience all the time. So that's my wheel.
Well,
thank you
for sharing.
Thank you.
That's a wrap. That's an entire podcast right there. It's so powerful what you just did. I mean, I just get inspired every time.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Well, I love your vulnerability, T. And I know our listeners write about that a lot when they write in, because I think that sadly, mostly we do social media and everybody looks pretty and put together, and we may share gripes and complaints, but to actually just say to all these listeners that you and Wes had a disconnect and just talk about the pain of that and the guilt of that. I just love that, that authentic, raw, real, because that's actually the way we live. If we're not talking about this stuff, then we all pretend like we have no problems and we've got perfect lives and perfect marriages. Sure. And then the reality is we don't. And then we struggle, we hide, and we are so lonely in that. And so thank you for being.
That's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah. It is so painful to be in those moments, like so much pain. Wow. So thankful for these tools that we can use them to connect, and so grateful to have Elijah back with us.
So much joy.
Your podcasts are always just so powerful. And the topic today, I'm really excited about, like Phyllis has shared how much health has impacted you, with your physical pain, and with Meg and her physical pain. And then my shame of like not taking care of my body here recently. Like health is such an important topic that we take for granted.
Totally.
Yeah, we do.
Every single day. If you are not experiencing physical pain right now, you're probably not like realizing how much of a blessing that is.
It's all consuming when you are.
It's all consuming. It changes everything from how if you feel bad in your own body, how you respond to others is really poor.
Absolutely.
And so I am curious about your own health journey. And what shifted for you and where you're at today.
Can I interrupt real quick? I'm so sorry. This is horrible to do, but I can't help myself. I had a kinesiologist appointment this morning of going to a new guy, and it was just so cool. He said, if the first car you ever buy, if they said to you, this is the only car you will ever have, we would treat that car like, oh my gosh, I have to drive this car for more than half a century more.
Wow.
And most Americans are obsessed with their car anyway already. But I mean, it would be like mega. And he goes, your body is your car.
Yep.
And we treat our actual car so much better than we do the vehicle that carries us around. Yep. And you don't get a new one. You can't trade it in every 3.5 years.
Totally.
So what are you going to do to take care of this car so it will drive, so it will last for whatever, 80, 90 years. And that's how significant. I just thought that's
amazing.
Brilliant.
So my journey, I, was, played sports in high school, was fit, as a teenager and young 20s, got married when I was 24. We had kids when I was 26. And that began the journey to what I called snack packs at night. So all the ice cream and cookies and chips and stuff. And I just, as my wife gained weight with the pregnancy, I was like, I'm just going to join you on this journey, and went down the road and ended up in my mid 30s. We had 4 kids at this time. I just noticed this pattern where my kids would ask me to do something and I would say, I can't do that. My back hurts or this hurts or I'm too tired or what. And I'm like, I'm 34 years old.
Wow.
If this is what I'm telling my kids now, what am I going to be telling my grandkids? And I was like, nope, can't do it. Wow. Can't do it anymore. And so just made a massive shift, just went down the journey of what I thought was just to lose weight, turned into this beautiful coaching journey. And I just got so enamored with the science of health and nutrition and how movement is life. And I just got it. I lost, I think 40 pounds in like 12 weeks but then I've been on that journey for 8 or 9 years. I'm 42 now. So that was when I was 34. And along the way, just kept getting more and more information, got certifications, and just realized that the barrier to entry for health seems to be so high for people, meaning like it feels like it's so hard. Like it's so hard to get healthy in our bodies. And I was like, it shouldn't be this hard. It needs to be easier. And then finding connection codes, like really realizing how much emotion is in it for people. There's something happening for people that they haven't been able to do the things that, I don't know very many people, if any, or I haven't come across any that are like, yeah, I just don't care about my health. I think it's, I'm good. I just want to be sick all the time. Right. Like, I don't know anybody that's like that. Right. But they're still not doing the things. And there's all the information I carry in my brain is on the internet. You could go find out. Right. You don't need me. But there's something happening for people where they just can't do it, right? Whatever that is, shame, guilt, trauma, whatever the thing is. And so I just started going on this journey where I just want to help people. I want to, I've had a transformation. Once my body started to get into shape, it was so interesting. My physical health directly impacted my spiritual and emotional health. But before that, all I could think about, what was all consuming, was like all the pain I was in. I was, sluggish, tired all the time. And so that was all consuming. So I didn't even have the capacity to address these other areas of health in my life. And then once I got physically healthy, began connection codes, I was able to start getting emotionally healthy. And so I feel like we are created as this beautiful one being. And sometimes we separate those parts. We separate the spiritual aspect, the mental, the emotional from our bodies, but they're all connected. And that's actually science. Like we're connected. They're not separate. Like your emotions aren't separate from your physical body. It's actually something happening in your body.
Right.
So that's been my journey so far, and it's been wonderful, and hopefully changed a few lives along the way, and just continue to get better. So
yes, I'm curious about what you see with your clients whenever you start to impact the emotional side of it for them, and what is like a common struggle that you see people coming across that is making them either want a shift, but that's what's holding them back from it? Like what is a thread that you tend to see?
Yeah. So even before connection codes, I never addressed. So we often address behavior rather than addressing the reason for the behavior.
Right.
And so for me, it was always a big deal to find the source. What is the thing? And that is the biggest stumbling block for most people, that they've fallen into a pattern or they've fallen into and they're not even aware that this is a thing that is impacting this said thing. And so what I find often is that there's a whole bunch of emotion driving behavior. Just a whole bunch.
Totally.
Whether that's guilt and shame or, it's just fascinating to watch when you start to address the core of what's happening, how behavior changes. And so that's what I notice most of all, is that most of the time people, like, again, they want to be healthy, but they're powerless. Almost. It's like they're not choosing it. Something is driving them to these choices. So I always try to address that first, which is frustrating for most of my clients, because they're like, just give me something that I can lose 40 pounds in 40 days and then I'll be fine. And I'm like, well, if we don't address what's underlying, what's driving the behavior, we'll never fix the behavior.
Yeah.
So, right. Because we have a podcast, I just want to address that. We have a podcast that just came out with Elijah where you're getting to the root of your own pain and the behavior that came from that, the coping. And so if you haven't listened to that episode, I highly encourage you to go back where he shares your own journey of getting to that root.
I was thinking that you freely use the word pain, right? And I think that for a lot of us, we know the word stress.
Sure.
So it's kind of like, oh, yes, my life is full of stress. And so because of the stress, my health is deteriorating.
Right.
Because of stress, I binge watch or I binge eat.
Absolutely.
Right? And we've talked about stress, that word, a lot on different podcasts. Like, it's a word that we accept in our society. But when you break that word down, like what is really happening in our bodies and what is the emotion connected to stress, that's different for each of us.
Absolutely.
And to even think about that with the book I've already mentioned, Radical Remission, where that the idea, like Glenn said, we all have cancer. It's just constantly being cleaned out of our body. But if something comes along, what we could call stress, if you want to just put one word on it, what big stress happened, you got to go back and find that.
Absolutely.
It's super important because if we don't find it, then it is continuing to be that unhealthy part.
Yeah.
And we can make this other change, right? Like we can starve ourselves and lose X amount of pounds.
Right.
That stressor is still destroying our body.
Yep.
And so it's very interesting because I think that that's what's really hard. Dive into that pain, which is part of what that the episode that you just mentioned, Tera, that we did with you that has already come out. That's the one where you have to really look at some hard things.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It requires change. It really does. Yeah. And I know that that's so much of the story in this book. They share testimonials throughout the book where people went, I had to make a huge life change. I had to quit my job and take a different job because the stress the pain of that job was tearing my body down.
Yeah,
and so I love that you're mentioning that you've got to find the root. You've got to find what it is. But that, for me personally, has been a really big challenge. I feel like I've been on this journey for at least a year now of figuring out like the pain in my body is a messenger.
Right.
And my physical pain, like my leg pain is a messenger. And I am digging to find it. And if you've listened to other of our podcasts, anger has been a big one that I am fearful of anger, allergic to anger. I've been on this anger journey. Things have come up, but I still don't have the health that I want, right? I don't have the flexibility, the mobility, it's just, and it is very distracting. Pain is super distracting.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's discouraging. So emotionally, it brings me down, but then it stops me in my tracks. Right. Like I was on a roll there for a while, doing all kinds of different things, exercise-wise. And then when my pain level goes super high, I quit it all, right? I'm just like, I can barely walk. So I can't do those exercises. I'm barely walking.
Wow.
And so then that's discouraging. You feel like you're starting over, but I think it still goes back to, you got to keep working. And I think it's just important to know it's not a quick fix.
Absolutely not.
And to find the pain source is not a quick fix.
No.
And once you find it, getting out of it's not a quick fix.
No. I guess I shouldn't announce this because somebody will steal it, but you should write a book called Discovering Anger.
Ooh.
That's a great, but we could do one, it's a series of 8 books, each of discovering shame, discovering guilt.
Yeah, I got it.
That'd be pretty amazing. And you don't have anything going on anyway, so you could do that in your spare time.
That's great.
It's easy peasy.
I may feel some anger about that right now. The fact that you think I'm going to write a book.
And you just saw how the connection codes works right there.
Beautiful. That's a great.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm glad that you brought that up, but because what I'm thinking about is even living in conflict, the pain that causes in your internal body.
Absolutely.
And so like I have someone specifically in my life, hello, I know you're listening and I love you, but when they are in conflict, they get really, really sick. Like they get hit with vertigo.
Absolutely.
They've ended up in the hospital. They have had severe autoimmune breakdowns. And that is all due to the unprocessed emotion.
Yep. I agree.
And
well, sorry, I don't want to interrupt you.
You're okay.
Well,
talking to your mic though.
Just what Phyllis is saying is that in this culture, and of course we talk about this kind of connection codes purists, that in our culture, the end of the conversation is what should be the beginning. So someone says, it's a crappy day, crappy life, whatever. And they go, oh, okay. And the person says, I'm just really stressed. You go, oh, yeah. But that should be the beginning of the conversation. It's like, wait, what's happening with stress? But and we do that with psychological disorders. Oh, he's bipolar. She's whatever, and we just label it, and that's the end of the discussion. He's a narcissist. Oh, okay, he's a narcissist. That should be the very beginning of it. To go, oh wait, what's happening with narcissism? What's happening with depression? What's happening with stress? What's happening with anxiety? Because those are results of a whole bunch of unprocessed emotion. That's not the cause. That's the result. It then can become the cause, but that's actually the result. And we culturally, we tend to go, okay. And then, just like with Phyllis, let's give her some painkillers.
Right.
There we go. We treated the symptom. Yep. Are you feeling any pain anymore? Nope. Well, why don't we just shoot everybody up with Novocaine? You wouldn't feel anything ever. We've solved all of life's problems.
Yep. Just like that.
Mask the pain. And I'm not saying you don't ever, somebody might need to, but I hope it's a stopgap measure. It's not a lifestyle. And culturally, we've made these things a lifestyle, which is so detrimental.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, and we also just associate health with like the way physical.
That's what I was going to say, yes.
It's like you look at someone and you deem if they're healthy or you're not, but really it's what's happening underneath their body and underneath their skin that determines where they're at and how they're functioning.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. When most people say, I want to lose weight, right? What they really mean is I want to feel good in my body and I want my body to be able to do the things that my life demands of it.
Yeah.
Like that's actually what they mean. But we just go, I want to lose weight, and we associate, I want to look good. I want to have, which is sure, that's fine too. But really the better marker for health is, do I feel good in my body? And will my body do the things that my life needs it to do? Right? Like Phyllis loves to walk. She loves to adventure. Will her body do that right now? It's not liking that very much. Okay. So we got to address that. That's a messenger. Okay. And it could be all sorts of things. It's not just going to be physical. Right. Although it is going to be physical,
right?
But it's also going to be the other emotions that have led to some sort of dysfunction in your movement patterns and that sort of thing. So like even we've addressed a little bit of that, just watching her move and all that stuff. And then one of the things that I noticed often with her is she holds her breath all the time.
Ooh.
Right. And breath is life. Oxygen is life. Okay. So that reaction to that's a stressor on your body.
Wow.
When you're not breathing, that's a stressor and your body's going panic. We don't have oxygen, right? So Phyllis has to work on her breathing as she's stretching and doing all these things, right? So it's something, it seems very small, but that's an added stressor. And if you're already in fight or flight, if you're already stressed out, that added stressor is just going to increase your body's response because your body's designed to protect itself, right? So the pain is saying, don't move.
Yeah.
This is going to harm us further. Right. And so we need to find the source. What is the thing that's happening behind that? So,
okay, we'll talk more about breath because you were working with me yesterday and you said, breathe. And I'm like, okay, that's weird that someone has to tell me to breathe, right?
Yep.
So I took a deep breath and then you said that I had to let it out through my mouth. So explain that.
Well, there's a whole bunch of science behind it, but when you breathe in through your nose and then out through the mouth, it tells your brain you're okay. So if you think about it, hunter-gatherer kind of sort of thing, like when a bear is chasing you, you're breathing, right? A panic state, in and out through your mouth, in and out. When you're not, when you're just resting, your mouth is closed. You take a deep breath in. Naturally, that's how we're made. Breathe in through our nose, and then you just naturally breathe it out through your mouth. That's a natural state, right? A restful state. So the reason I was having you do that is because we were putting you in some stretches that could be uncomfortable for your body. And I wanted you to tell your body, hey, we're okay. We're all right. Relax into this. We're doing this on purpose. We're not being chased by a bear, right? So it relaxes you into your nervous system and just tells your body that you're okay.
Yeah, I loved that when you said that yesterday. And it's like a message that I found super helpful to say to my body, you're okay. So even through my breathing, I was in my mind saying, you're okay. And I know that somatic therapy, there's a lot of that with somatic therapy. Even putting Margaret Naguib, when she was on our podcast, she talked about putting your hand on your heart and saying, I'm okay.
Yeah.
And just like that messaging is so, so powerful.
Absolutely.
And I think for that alone right there is what your body needs. It's the communication. And I do hear that the whole breathing thing, I've heard that, like take good breaths, but you added one other component in explaining that it is telling your body you're okay.
Right.
And I think I appreciate those extra things because I'm like, oh, I breathe just fine. I breathe all the time.
Uh-huh.
And you've been doing it for a while.
And I've been doing it for a while, right? I can't even hold my breath that long. But to realize I actually am holding my breath like probably constantly through the day. And I don't even know it. But when you did that with me yesterday, the idea that it's not just an exercise for breathing, it's actually a communication to my body.
Yep, exactly.
That really sticks with me. It's like, oh, I'm telling my body you're okay.
Yeah. There you are.
And it calms my body. And it also receives what you're trying to do. I think like in doing exercises that are challenging, it's like my body wants to immediately hold its breath.
Right.
Which is what's that about?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's for each person, it could be a little bit different, right? But it is a stress. So like exercise is a stress inducer. It just is. And that's not necessarily bad. Stress is telling your body, hey, we need to adapt so that if this happens again, we'll be prepared for it. Right. So your body is beautiful and it's made wonderful. And I think God made it wonderful. So it could be that that's just your natural reflex and so it can be trained to breathe more naturally, even while exercising, to tell your body, hey, this is okay. We're doing okay. We're fine. We're okay. So it depends on the person, but for you, it's a stressor, right? And so your body's like, fight,
right,
run, so. Yeah, we want to try and be in what's called the parasympathetic state when we're resting, which is telling your body that there's no stress. And then, so this is really big for like nutrition. That state of like being able to breathe and relax, it also allows digestion to happen. So it allows healing to happen. It allows cell repair to happen. So when we're in a constant state of stress, none of those functions are working. So it goes back to if you're being chased by a bear, your body doesn't need to use energy to digest food. Right. It needs to use energy to run as fast as you can, right? And so most of us, like we use that word stress, okay, most of us are living in that state all the time. Now, if we take it back to emotions, that can be as simple as conflict, right? Where somebody's not communicating at the core, they're communicating through their emotions, and you have a sympathetic nervous system response, which is fight, flight, freeze, fawn. And your digestive system shuts down, your cell repair shuts down because your body is going, I have to protect myself, right? And so we live, and that's where emotions is a big deal because we live in this constant state of unprocessed emotions, and that doesn't go away. It lives in your body. And your nervous system just continues to get more and more jammed up, so then it can't do the functions that it was created to do, which was repair your body, help you digest, like all of the beautiful, wonderful things that our body was made to do. And that was kind of my story, is I lived in that sympathetic state for so long, unprocessed emotions, stress, that eventually my body just was like, no, we're not doing this anymore. And it completely shut down. And that, like you say, the dam will break and we don't know what's going to happen. And for some people, it's autoimmune disease where your body's actually attacking itself because it's going, we don't know how else to fight this thing. So it begins to fight everything, right? It can be nervous breakdown. It can be cognition failure. Like actually I had a bunch of memory gaps because I just wasn't processing. So it can manifest in any different ways. So it's important for us to flush that out as well.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about disorders of the psyche,
right.
the impact. And I love this conversation because it just shows how much our body is interwoven to where every single aspect of what we do affects another thing. And we like to think that we can compartmentalize it all, but really it all flows together. And I just think that is so beautiful. And one of the things that I keep thinking about are people that are like, hey, I'm doing the exercise. Like I see that all the time of I've been working out for months and I've been walking all the time and I'm doing all of this and it's not working.
Yep.
And it's because there's actually something much deeper going on.
Absolutely.
Because of how everything works together.
Yep.
If you're firing and you're not processing emotions and you're living in this internal stress, your body is not going to give you the results that you're looking for, which is to feel better in your body.
Right. Or even something as simple as body composition. So the biggest complaint for most people is, I got too much fat in these areas I don't want fat, right? Well, when you're in a fight or flight state, your body is literally going, store everything to survive. It is holding on to things. It doesn't want to get rid of fat because fat is one of its biggest energy sources.
Right. Yeah.
So when you're in this fight or flight mode, it's not wanting to give it up. So you could still be exercising as much as you want, eating decent, but if you're living in this constant state of flooded emotions, stressed emotions, your body may be hanging on to it. I'm not saying that's the case for everybody. I'm just saying that is a factor where I've seen a lot of people plateau. They're like, I can't get this last. Well, what's happening for you?
Wow.
Yeah, totally.
What's happening for you? Because it's living in your body as well.
Totally. Yeah. And it's going to be some kind of outside conflict that's happening that's bringing it internal. That was something that happened for Wes and I when we had our conflict the last day at Disney and we were disconnected. And we were like, well, we promised the kids we would take them to Disney Springs. They could pick out one toy. And we got there and my stomach started feeling bad.
Wow.
And then Wes was like, I'm not feeling really great, which of course, then I couldn't say, well, I'm not feeling great either because, I can't piggyback off of him. But I was like, I walked around and thought it's because we're disconnected.
Wow.
We both feel like physically, we felt like total crap.
Yeah.
And it was because we were disconnected.
Wow.
So true.
So Elijah, tell us before we wrap up, like, what does your process look like? How, if someone comes to you, they're like, hey, I want to change some things. What advice do you have to our listeners of how they need to either clue into themselves or what steps can they take to feel better in their bodies?
Totally. It's a big question. If someone comes to me when I'm getting to know them, I'm asking them a lot of questions about their day. And their life.
Wow.
So I'm get really curious about what is their life like? Because when we start to look at patterns and routines, we start to get clues about what's happening for them, right? And so we start to see the stressors, we start to see, and then that factors into their nutrition, right? Factors into their exercise and all of that. So I'm always looking to find where is the spot where we're going, ooh, there's probably some pain there and we need to address that first. Again, it's frustrating sometimes for my clients. They're like, just tell me what to do to lose all this weight. I'm like, okay, I promise if you go on this journey with me, we'll get there. Yeah. We will get there and it'll be faster than you think. But so that's what I do is like really tuning into yourself. And I think we all have those habits that we don't like. Or we feel some guilt and shame about it. Maybe we feel like we want to change. I would start there. And then I always say, okay, if you ate, we're talking nutrition, if you ate a bowl of ice cream on a Wednesday and you normally don't eat a bowl of ice cream on a Wednesday, but you felt some guilt and shame about that. Okay, back up hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever. What happened before that? What happened for you before you did the thing that you feel some shame and guilt about? Usually in there, you will find something that is the driver for their behavior. And so that's what I say is get curious about yourself, what I call be mindful. So when it comes to nutrition, I say before you put anything in your mouth, ask yourself, is this leading me towards my goal or away from my goal?
Yeah.
And just that question alone, even if you decide to eat the thing, you always eat less because you made the decision to do it. Wow. And you're like, okay, that's okay. I'm okay. So just being mindful about everything they do. That's like, if you can get there, you're ahead of most people.
Yeah, it was an extreme thing. I assume you know my popcorn story, and maybe we put that in the show notes too, because it was just stunning to me. I've not eaten popcorn movies since that day, not because I've been biting down on a stick and enduring. I'm like, I'm not doing it. Like it literally just went away. And I'm not saying that that's going to work perfectly for everybody every time, but I was just startled by that because that's been, I don't even know, 3 years something like that.
Yeah.
And that was a lifestyle for me for
Yeah.
only 40 years. I mean, I ate like 11 tons of movie popcorn, which you're not supposed to do. And it to this minute, it's bewildering to me. It's like, and I think I've shared before that we were at the movies recently, and I got we ordered dinner there, and the guy looked at my little lap thing, and he goes, "Oh, sir, you have a free popcorn. Would you like that now?" And it was such a weird, freeze frame moment where it's free. So of course I have to, and I'm like, yeah. Well, actually, no, I'm not really interested. And I'm like, that's bizarre to me because I love free stuff. And I'm like, well, and you not only you have because it's free.
Well, of course.
And I was like, nah, I don't want it. So, I don't know. It's just bewildering to me what you're talking about. The simplicity of that, not necessarily the ease of it, but the simplicity of it. That I love that. Just pause even before you put the first thing in your mouth and go, what's happening with me? What's driving this?
Mm-hmm.
I'm feeling some pain. I'm feeling some sadness, loneliness, whatever. And now I want to eat a bunch of M&Ms or Skittles. Yeah. Well, people may not know that M&Ms and Skittles are not that good for you. So people don't.
I mean, they taste great, but
it just shocks people. What? I thought that was one of the five fundamental food groups. But just to process that, it's amazing to me that, and again, I'm not guaranteeing it happens every time, but to process that and to liberate yourself. And the last year or so, I've been saying, I think joy is possibly the most damaging core emotion that we experience.
Absolutely.
And everybody's like, joy's great, especially faith-based people. Choose joy, 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 joy. I think joy probably does at least as much, if not more damage than most of the core emotions. Just studying this.
Drives some pretty poor behavior. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Which again, for me, I ate so much movie popcorn and always felt horrible afterwards. And I'm like, I'm a smart guy. How did I do that? Repeat that behavior, not twice, not 10 times, as surely hundreds, if not thousands of times, because I was flooded with joy and I never processed it. First time I processed it, I'm released from it. I'm like, dang, that's, I don't know. It's fascinating to me.
Yeah.
So good.
Thank you for that. What I keep thinking is that, yes, joy is damaging. I still enjoy my chocolate,
Absolutely.
And so I think that what I want everyone to hear is that our goal for you is that your whole body feels good. That you feel good
100%.
in relationships, that you feel good just showing up in your life because you are worthy of it. We say you deserve it. And then Echo came on. She's like, people are worthy. And it is because you are worthy of feeling good. And I think that so many of us experience trauma. We experience all of these things early in our life that make us feel like we are not worthy of feeling good in our body. Like we deserve the bad that comes. And we really want to flip that script and say that not only are you worthy of connecting in your relationships, but you're worthy of feeling whole.
That's right.
And that it's possible.
Right. It is.
It is possible. And it's possible when you can process your emotion and then ask yourself what's happening with you when you're making the decisions that affect your health.
Yeah, because we would never say to a 12-month-old, do something useful, and then we'll give you some attention. Do something productive, do something worthwhile, and then we will honor you. What? You're the worst parent in the history of the world if that's your mentality. Well, there's no birthday where that's supposed to change. Okay, fine. When you're 12 months old, we'll love you, we'll care for you just because you are. And you actually poop and puke and stuff, but we'll just overcome it. Well, now that you're 2, we'll sing happy birthday and go, now you're 2. Now you're not worthy. You're not deserved. Well, 3, 5, 8, 10. There's no birthday where that's supposed to shift. Unfortunately, culturally, it does. But it's not supposed to. We're supposed to always be present with ourselves and with each other.
I think just on that note, what you said at the very beginning, it's so interesting that we would put more value on a car if we had to have that car than we do on ourselves a lot. And I think the biggest thing Connection Codes did for me is get me to connect with myself. And once I connected with what was happening for me, I had a lot more grace for me.
Wow.
And I had a lot more empathy for me, and I had more love for me. And I was like, oh, I do deserve this. Oh, and I think that a lot of people, that's where they're at. They're like, they're not only just coasting through life. They're like, I don't even, like one, I don't know where to start and I don't even deserve it anyway. So, and so it's that connection with yourself where you realize like, I'm valuable. I deserve this. Okay. I'm human. And then that also in turns gives you so much empathy for others, so much compassion for what's happening for other people. So definitely got to start there.
Thank you so much, Elijah. How can our listeners find you if they want to connect with you, if they want to dive deeper in what you've shared on any of the podcasts that Elijah has been on? How can they find you?
Probably the easiest way is to go to my Instagram. It's at Runyan Strong. And that's probably the easiest way. Or you can email me at elijah@runyanstrong.com. One of those two places is probably the best way. I have some links in there too. If you want to make a free consultation appointment, you can do that too.
I love that. Yeah, you can book a free consultation. Love that. I will put that in the show notes as well so people can easily find you. And if you want to connect with any of our certified coaches, that will also be in our show notes. We are so grateful for you to come and share
so much joy
with our listeners because, again, we just want you to feel good in your body.
Yeah, we do.
So you can live your fullest life because you are worthy of that. And thank you for listening every week, for sharing these episodes, for leaving us the 5-star reviews. They mean the absolute world. We do all of this because
you need this.
You deserve this. So let's do this.
Let's do this.